and then again, you have access to this as well a little bit later. So TechSmith has several different programs. One of them you might have heard of as Camtasia. Another one is Snagit. The good news is, I think that with the TechSmith Knowmia account, you all as faculty members working at the institution get a free copy of Camtasia. I don't think I'm lying, but I think that's kind of it. It's a more robust video editing program. It's made for educators primarily. They market to educators, so it's a really neat program. After this is done, we can talk a little bit more about it if you have questions, but David Cable will be the one to be able to get you that information. And then I'm sure there'll be other training methods for that. They had a product called Coach's Eye, which was used as sports to kind of slow-mo and capture and annotate kind of athletes. They had a program that I really liked called Jing, and this was a program that was really quick to capture a 5-minute video. It hosted it on their website, Screencast. It's a really neat company. So Knowmia is their newest product. Before it was called Knowmia, it was called Relay. So some of the stuff inside of the program, you'll see that it says Relay, but you're in the same place. They're rebranding it just recently. But it allows you to do all sorts of things. If you kind of watch that video I made, I'm trying to be a little engaging with that video, but it basically talked about the main features. The reason I like it and the way that I use it is I can see what students are viewing, how much they're viewing of the videos that I send out. You can embed quizzes on top of the video and get those results and have it break down based on class or individual scores. Some faculty I know use it for their quizzes, but remember when you push a quiz online, there's all sorts of ways you can kind of get around actually taking that and doing something cheating with that. But I use it primarily just to engage if students understand the materials. The other thing you can do too, which is a fairly new feature, is have a running conversation along the side of the video. So you can post a question if you want to. You give students a link to that video conversation, and they can ask questions, and it's time-stamped. So if they have a question about whatever you said in minute 2, it'll timestamp to that exact moment. It also does a good job of communicating with you. So when your videos are done rendering, when students have questions, when there's a conversation piece, you'll get an email notification, and you could turn those on and off, but it kind of helps you keep track of those things. It's free hosting, which is nice too. Sometimes you'll have quite a few videos. So it's really neat kind of process. I'm going to show you the quick capture program and a little bit about the main, your launch page that only you have access to unless you grant somebody else access to it. And then I want to show you a little bit about the classic recorder, which is another thing you can download, but you do not need to. It's just a little bit more robust recorder. Either way, you record something and it automatically goes to the TechSmith website for you to edit, add captions, take out things, adjust things. It's a really neat kind of video editor. It's very basic. But I have a question for you, and remember to unmute yourself, it'd be easier to hear you. So what are you using now? If you do use any sort of screen capture or video hosting, either in Canvas or just on YouTube, like what is it that you're doing? How do you reach out to students who are distant?
I'm using Zoom and taping lectures that way and then uploading them to YouTube to drop into Canvas. Okay,
because you have access. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say same thing. I didn't mean to interrupt her.
Oh, no. Please, it's fine. So yeah, that's a very efficient way. When you upload it to YouTube, you have your own channel. You can just only person with the link can view it. It's easy. I mean, that's the kind of solution. If this program doesn't do it for you, if you don't like the layout, you can still do those things, including TechSmith, right? So if you record a video using TechSmith, you can download that video and upload it to YouTube if you want to as well. The idea though is it's integrated into Canvas, which I think is your LMS. You've had that longer than Mott has. We just switched from Blackboard this summer. But all of it kind of is in the same place. So you don't have to leave the system to actually view videos and see the analytics and things like that. How else is anybody else doing anything other than using Zoom or YouTube?
I use OBS, screen capture.
Yep.
And YouTube with unlisted, and then normally I will like paste that video embedded into Canvas in a page so they can look at the page views. But
yep. Yeah, so you're doing this already, some of you, and so this is just an easier, I would argue, a much easier way to do it. So I'm going to share my screen. The chat window will go away, so I don't get a chance to see that. So if you do have a question as I'm working way through the process, just feel free to just chime in. I'm also going to mute my video just because the bandwidth, I think, save a bit of bandwidth for that. But in a minute, you should be able to see my screen. And again, if something is weird or if it somehow it cuts off, just let me know and I can repeat what I'm saying. So I'm going to stop the video and share my screen. So you should see something that looks like this. Now this is Mott's TechSmith page. Just because I have more videos hosted in here, yours will look like this, but maybe without any folders. So you'll have the Knowmia up here, and then you'll have your little image here. So the very first important thing to talk about is to make sure that you sign into Knowmia using your KCC credentials. Your students will do the same thing. If they want to access TechSmith from just from the web, they can type in their credentials too, and then the system knows that you're a KCC faculty or student, and so that's how you do it. If you ever get students who say they can't view the videos for whatever reason, that's either they did not log into Canvas or they did not log into TechSmith, and that again is if you host the video on Canvas or in the TechSmith website. So when you get there, you should be able to see all of the things that I'm about to talk to you about. There's a gentleman from the last session who signed up for the free trial before the email came out about instructions about how to sign up. And so if you sign up for the free trial, you're still technically into the free trial and you won't have access to this stuff. All you have to do is send David Cable a quick email saying, hey, I did this, and he'll help you figure it out. He is going to be the local Kirtland administrator for TechSmith, so all your specific questions can go directly to him. And obviously, he's pretty good at getting back to people rather quick. So really quick, you have your own homepage. This is where you store your videos. And just like any other thing in your life, you need to organize things just to make it make sense to you. So let me just show you a couple features, but I won't get into it until I come back after we talk about the recorder. So the library, you can add whatever folders you want to this. So this will just be like your main place for storing these videos. So I teach 101, 102, so I have a folder for my 101 materials and a folder for my 102s. I could see you using this if you have different courses. So if I have 2 sections of 101, I just have one folder for all the 101 material. It is just for organization's sakes. If you don't create any of these folders, it'll just default, all of them will just be under the library. So this probably won't be a big deal until you start getting dozens and dozens of videos in your library, so you might wanna mind those things. It's pretty easy to move the videos, and I'll show you how to do that later. So the My Library is just all of your videos, and then the folders you've created for all of your videos. The My Groups is an important part too. So my groups, think of this as my class, right? The collection of students you want to share this video with. So you're not sharing it 100 times, you're just sharing it 1 time per class. When you put students into groups and they sign up for the groups, then if you add a quiz to the video, then just those students' analytics will come from that video. If you copy that video into another course, then it will be just that course. They don't cross mingle the data. So if you have 3 sections, they're not all going to be in the same video. So this is why you want to create groups based on the courses that you're teaching. What I do is I clear out the courses each semester because they're a bit different, but this is a hangover from my summer courses. But you put a video in a course, the students have access to that and they can kind of see that. So that's what my groups are. To add a group, you just simply create new group, call it whatever you want to. This is important too. Obviously yours will say KCC. So you can choose what kind of privacy level you want. Obviously the bottom one works kind of like the private YouTube channel. They have to have the link in order to see it. Only people at KCC with the link, that's a bit more secure, or anybody at KCC or anybody at your institution can view it. By default, it's this one, which I recommend. You create that group, and then it creates the folder here, as well as the group settings. So the videos of all of you are in the way. I'm going to minimize that a little bit. And this is a pretty straightforward thing too. If you had videos, they would be here. to add members. So this is to add class, your students. This kind of works like any other program would. You can either type in their email addresses, but don't do that because that takes a while, or just post a link somewhere and they click on that link and then they're registered into that group, that class. How to do that is you just add a member. You want them to be participators, or if you want them to contribute stuff of their own, you could do that. There are several instructors who have low, like 5 or 6 students in their class, and they want the students to participate too by making videos and things like that. The students will have their own account, and their students can create videos too. So not only is this a program for you, but you can think of ways that your students could add videos and contribute in one way or another for you or for your class purposes. So I just put participant. You can add their email address here, but again, that would take a while. So this gives you a specific link to then distribute that to whoever you want who in that class. So when I create my syllabus in Canvas, one of the first things it says is for the videos, you'll need to add this particular group. And so they click on the link and there it is. But that's just copy and it saves to your clipboard. So you can add them by email or just en masse by that, but be careful that you're clicking one thing or another. I would be very hesitant to click this when you're talking with students. You can just share this group directly from here as well. It'll do the same thing. It'll give you the URL. You can copy it that way. So going this way and that way are the same exact things. If you get invited to a group, you can leave it. The students can leave it anytime they want to as well. So just be mindful of that. And then there's just a couple little settings that's mostly just privacy and the things that kind of went over before. And if you need to delete a group, it's right there. You can delete that. So again, your groups are basically your core sections. If you teach multiple sections, let's say I'm teaching 3 101s, I want to keep them separate because the data that I access will be separate for those classes then. So just keep that in mind as far as how you're using those things. We'll talk about accessibility in a minute, but if you go back to the library, we're going to click on this here, and this is going to open the quick capture. So this is their updated version of a really easy, just click, it opens up. You'll have to download it once, which you might have done that already previous to this session. And it'll upload a really quick capture thing. So as an aside, and I will mention this later, but I want to focus on this quick capture. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a gear icon. This is the classic recorder. So you do not have to download the classic recorder. You might want to. I'll show you what it does. That it only does, I think, 1 or 2 things differently than the launch capture button. But again, you'd have to download the program and link it to your account, which is not too difficult. Under the question mark and tutorials are a host of different Knowmia tutorials. Everything that I'm talking about you today, there's also a tutorial about it on the website. There's classes that they offer for free, like a 15-minute class on effective delivery of presentations. They really advertise and want faculty members to kind of make the most of this. There's also a chat option that you can get a TechSmith representative from Okamus to be on the line and kind of walk you through stuff. If you have to log in using your KCC credentials, so they'll know what platform you have, what version you have, and all that kind of stuff. Last thing is I found that Chrome works best with this program, followed by Mozilla Firefox. I've had less success with any other browser, but if you're working with a different browser, just make sure that it's compatible. And again, Chrome is fairly free, and that's what our webmail is through, so it makes it very, very convenient. So let me just stop right there. Not being able to see you or see the chat. Is there any questions, or did anybody have any questions about what I just explained, just as far as the basic layout of this particular page? All right, Word. So launch capture. Again, you can follow along or just kind of watch how this works. So when you launch capture, it's going to prompt you to download it if you haven't, but most often it's going to give you this option. You just simply open. So this is the little button here. This is the first step. So this is going to give you the option to capture your entire desktop as you're presenting, or capture the whole screen will fill up with you using your camera, or you can toggle back and forth between those two, right? So there might be a point where you want to introduce yourself, but then you want to move to the presentation and then back to yourself. So this is what capture does, and does it pretty quickly. Clicking on capture will open up this option for you to select what you are, which region you are going to capture. At the very top of the screen, at least I can see it on mine, it says, do I want to capture the entire, like the full screen? So you might want that option. But you can just select whatever area you want to, so perhaps just the window you have open. It'll tell you some things about, now this is kind of weird because I'm using the camera in Zoom, but it's now using the camera in this, so it's kind of weird meta. So you should be able to see some buttons up here. The record starts the recording, obviously. You can hit pause. In a moment, what will happen is that record icon will move over to the right, which is this way. We'll move over to the right to allow you access to the camera and to a pause. And again, pause means just you want to pause it, take a breath, and then continue on with recording. The only reason you would hit stop, like the stop button, is just to end the recording, and now you're ready to upload it up to Knowmia. This camera here toggles back and forth between capturing the desktop and capturing the camera. So imagine you're teaching and you want to introduce yourself to your students, and then you want to gravitate to the session on the computer. You want to go through a couple things and then back to you. So you do have that option to go back and forth using the little buttons that'll show up in a minute. Clicking the down arrow will ask you which camera do you want, which area do you want. So I have my FaceTime camera on my laptop hidden, and I just have this other camera on top of my laptop, and that's what I'm using. This is a really neat feature too, is you have the option to capture the system audio on your computer. So there's a lesson I give on song analysis, just looking at lyrical analysis and how most songs that play are kind of silly. So I want to play a song for them in my presentation, but I want it to be high quality music. So before, I'd have to play it on my laptop and it would get picked up by my camera, and there'd be like an echo effect and it would be a bit distorted. So with recording system audio, that's anything that plays on your computer, from beeps to messages to videos, will then be recorded higher quality. Just be aware that when you do that, it favors the system audio. So if you're playing a song and talking on top of it, the song is going to be louder. So it's important that you mind talking over the audio that you want your students to hear. So you can turn that on or off just by clicking on that. And then of course you have access to what microphone you want. So I've got it's called a blue snowball. It looks like this. So I record from that, but you can record from anything you want to. One of the things that we'll talk about in creating higher quality videos, even using TechSmith, is these are pretty cheap to pick up. I think I got this for like $10. I can give you the link on Amazon, but it's a lapel mic with a rather large cord, right? So I could click this right into my computer, put this on me, and it would be a lot easier to hear me. Some of you are right on your laptop, like this distance from the laptop to record. Some people like to kind of step back so they can get more of their gestures and things like that. So this is what would be really easy to use. You can find wireless ones too, but I just like the idea of being tethered to my laptop in that way. So the pixels, or the length and width of the video is up there, and this is the undo button. So if you record something and want to redo it, you can do it that way. I will just hit this to record the desktop. I will hit the record button. It's going to give me a countdown to start, and you'll see this kind of move over to, looks like it's just staying here for this particular thing because I'm capturing a larger piece. So now it's just capturing the desktop. It's capturing my audio. I can toggle back and forth between the video and not. If I hit pause, it'll just pause for a second, and I can hit record again. If I'm satisfied with my amazing 16-second video, I can hit stop. It's going to give you then a preview of it. You can play it here. I won't do that, but this is actually, if you kind of see this is a video of the thing I just recorded. And then if you're done, you can click upload to Knowmia, and it's going to take every 5 minutes. I'm going to say it's going to take about 10 minutes to upload. If it's a very short video like this one, it's already complete. TechSmith will send you an email saying your recording is done, so you can check it out if you want to. When you're uploading something, you can go ahead and start recording something different or do something else on your laptop. You don't have to wait for it to be done. So you can kind of send videos up quickly in that particular way. When you're done, you then will see that video open up in your library. It will show up something like this. Clicking on that once will take you to the actual video in this regard. That's the recorder right there. You have access to clicking on and viewing your content, your system audio, or just a video, however you want to kind of rule it. So in your library, that video, if it's still processing, there'll be a little picture of it saying, it's still processing, give us a few more minutes, whatever, but you'll see that space there. So here are some options you have when you're looking at the videos that you've already recorded in your library. I should mention this too. There's a couple teachers from the last session that this pertained to. Some of you already have a host of videos that you've made from YouTube or from wherever you want to. You can upload those into Knowmia. Why would you want to do that? Again, because it's all in one area. When you upload a video from your desktop or from YouTube, you also get the ability to then, you get the analytics, who's watching it, what percentage do they watch, things like that. If you can link to any YouTube video, by the way, and even if you don't own it, and the same thing will happen. When you link to a YouTube video, the only restrictions is that you can't add conversations and you can't add quizzes on top of it. So if you have your own videos on YouTube, I would just find the file that you downloaded to begin with, or download that YouTube video and then upload them into this. And again, under Create, there's then Import from YouTube or Upload Media, and you should know how to do this. It's a pretty straightforward process for uploading media this way. Next session tomorrow, I'll be talking about the Recorder app that happens on the mobile phones or devices. This is useful. The one more clever way I've seen teachers use this is a biology teacher, and he's trying to get students to notice various types of wildlife just in and around Flint. And so he has them take their camera, they download this, they link it to their own account, which is fairly easy. And then they upload videos directly from their phone. So pictures or videos, you click, and then as soon as you stop it, it automatically uploads it and then will appear in your library automatically. So that's if you want to connect a mobile device, you can do that there. So this is kind of neat because it gives you a lot of options here. So this little, these dots here just allow you to reorganize your videos. If you have a lot of them, you can move them around. This gear icon gives you the option to, again, move it. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but you can change owner. So if you're working with a different faculty member and you both make a video and you want to give them ownership rights too, you can change the owner. It'll ask you for their information and it'll appear then in their media library. So it's a way to change ownership in that way. Of course, delete, you could copy. The only reason you'd want to copy something is if you want to, maybe you have a longer video and then you want to give a shorter video for this particular class or this particular student. So you can copy it before you mess with it. So you still have original copy. If you have quizzes embedded in there, and if you have analytics, so seeing which students have clicked on it, how much, you can reset that data. So this would probably happen at the end of the semester when you want to reuse that video. Something that I didn't realize when I first started teaching online was the need for you to not be specific in the video. So welcome to fall 19, because then it stops you from being able to use that video again. Right? So just saying welcome to 101, it will save you. You can use those videos again and again if you need to. You can download the data as a spreadsheet. So the quiz data or the conversations or the analytics, all that stuff you can download. And the other option, which you'll probably use a lot more, is share to group. So you find a video that you want to share. You've already created a group called 101 section 3 or whatever it might be. You can then click on that. It'll give you the option to pick which group you want to share with it. Now what it does is it technically makes a copy of that. So if you put a quiz on that or you edit that particular video, it won't touch the original one. So you're not putting a quiz on the entire video, you're putting a quiz on that particular section of one. So if you want to add a quiz and send it to multiple things, add the quiz first, right? So if you put it on this video first, then it'll carry with it. If you do it in the group, it won't. Hopefully that makes sense. So do all the edits and quizzes first, and then you copy it to the groups to embed those quizzes in that way. Because if you add the quiz once it's in the group, it won't carry over to the original media. Clicking on it once will open up the viewer. And this is then where you can look at the video and do what you want with it. So these are the cool things that I haven't seen with any other program that are all in one spot and the kind of options you have. So let me just show you how this works. This button just gives you the basic editing thing of a title and a description, and then where you want it to be located, which group you want it to be, which library folder you want it to be located in. They say to make descriptions very specific. So this is a video introducing the syllabus, blah, blah, blah. So not just video, but some students rely on this to know what they're going to click on. It defaults the date and time, so just mind that. So you can edit it that way. If you want to share just this particular video with one particular person or a couple of different people that's not associated with your class. So if I was making a video and sharing it for professional development purposes, this is just the link to go to the library. They don't have editing rights to it, but you can kind of share it this way as well. So let's look at these because I think these are kind of fun and interesting pieces. So again, you can edit the details. You can also edit it this way. Privacy, you can change features. You won't see admin feature, well, rather you won't necessarily see that because you aren't necessarily the administrator of it, but again, you can change permissions this way if you want to. So this is what's kind of neat. And of course, there's no data for this because no one's watched this yet and I haven't shared it with anybody. But what it'll do, it'll show you how many people have viewed it, how many times they viewed it, any comments that are associated with it, and then what completion rate each person has. So first, it's going to give you an overall 30% of your class has watched this up to 60% of the video. It'll kind of average all of the students in your class. What'll happen once students view it is their name will appear here. And because it's pulling from Kirtland data, because you have to use your username and password, it'll have the first and last name. Whatever appears on your Canvas shell or your email account for what their name is, that's what it's going to be. They can't just pick any name they want to. And they'll list them student by student by student. The analytics share, it's really kind of cool. It'll be in a pie chart kind of thing where you'll see you know, how much that student viewed. Now what it does is it gives you the completion rate. So a student could hit play, walk away for 5 minutes and come back and it says they viewed the piece at 100%. So it's not the best option, but it does help kind of make sure that students are actually following and paying attention a bit. You will find, of course, students say they don't know what they don't know what the topic is for the essay or what the project is, and you look and they didn't even watch the video, so that's a good first step for them. It also has the results of the quizzes. There's a couple different quiz options you can have, which I'll show you. But the quizzes also say question 1, here's what they answered, they got it right. Question number 2, this is what they answered. There's open-ended questions, which aren't automatically scored, aren't automatically pointed right or wrong. So you'll be able to look at them that way. So as a whole class or each individual student, it's really kind of cool to see if your videos are being watched by anybody in particular. Accessibility, this is where you're going to add the captioning. For some reason, TechSmith gives you the option to assign captioning to another person. We don't have anybody at our college. I don't know if you do. Some students or some faculty use students, just tap a student to do some sort of captioning if they want to. The most common issue, the most common button though, is add caption track this way. So clicking on this will say, okay, do you want to do it like yourself or do you want us to try to do it automatically? Please, for the love of God, pick this one. It makes your life a lot easier. It's not 100%. But it does a pretty good job with it. So what it's doing is right now it's processing. And so it's going to take probably only a few more minutes because it's not a very long video. And when it's done, it's going to have you review them before they can be published. So while that's working, I want to show you a couple other things on that. So just realize if you have a 10, 15-minute video, it's going to take a while. Mind that. So the audio description adds, when the students click on the video, they can click on an MP3 or audio file for them to hear what the description is. So if you have a complicated video that you want to kind of introduce or you want to spend some time talking about it, you could click add audio description. Now, it doesn't have an audio recorder. What it does is you can upload an audio that you've already recorded from your desktop. So there's MP3 recorders or audio recorders on most computers. Save that to your desktop, click on add audio description and find that to upload that way. Any questions so far about captioning or analytics? I'm assuming sometimes I think that nobody is there and I'm just talking. So I'm assuming you're all good. So that'll still render, and what I'll show you, if you've ever used the YouTube auto captioning, it's almost identical. It'll show you what it thought you said. You can edit it, you can do those things, but I'll come back to that in a bit. So edit media is different than this. So edit media is where you can take clips of things, and it's going to say, do you want to edit a copy of it, or do you really want to do stuff to the original video? The easiest thing to do, of course, would be to do this before you do the captioning, because if you take out stuff or edit stuff, it's going to be different. But let me show you what this looks like. It'll again open up the video, and it'll give you a timeline by points of seconds. And it's pretty simple. Let's say you can scroll down this way or use this to scroll there. Let's say you want to get rid of the part where you're ending the thing, and maybe you want to, you've spent a little bit of while using the mouse to try to close windows. You don't want students to see that. You find the exact moment you want to cut. You drag the red one to show what is going to be cut, and then you can cut it. If you mess up, you can undo it. You can hit play at any time to see what moment that is. If I hit pop. So if I want to take that out, I want to cut it that way. And that's pretty much what you have the option to do. You can cut sections out. So sometimes you cut the first part out and the second part out. Some teachers, when they are talking and they mess up for some reason, they'll just pause for a second and then continue on and then just cut that out later. This is a really important point, and it is a bit embarrassing point to learn myself, is I did some editing because one of my daughters came in asking an irrelevant question, and I told her I was busy, so I kind of snapped at her. I shouldn't have done that, but I did, and it recorded. And so I was like, oh, I'll just take that out, no problem. And so I did what I was supposed to do, and I cut it out, but I didn't hit publish. And so if you don't hit publish, none of those changes that you made will stick. So please hit publish, and then it'll change in the video that the students or whoever will watch now will be then the one that you wanted them to watch. For the sake of this, I'm just going to restore the original video. I'm going to restore, and I'm going to hit publish or the save and exit in the right-hand corner. So there, we're back to this window again. So edit media is taking out snippets. It's not very robust. You can't take two videos from your computer, upload them, and meld them together. You can't detach the audio that some programs have. You can't add audio to it. It's a very basic editor. Camtasia would be the one that you'd want to use to do the more serious editing. And again, it's a pretty neat program to use. I haven't used it much myself, but I have peers that say that it's really useful for them. So the last two things I want to show you, and I'll then answer any questions you have. These are the kind of cool features, is you can add conversations and quizzes to your video. So what they do is they embed on top of them. Again, if you upload your own video, it'll work on that. If you link to a YouTube video, no matter if it's yours or somebody else, if it's a link to a YouTube video, you can't do this with it. So just mind those things. Quizzing is pretty simple. You would just click on add quiz. You'd go to the TechSmith quiz editor. You can again change the title if you want to. You'll have to hit this save quiz once you make any changes, so mind that. And it's pretty much, this is how it works. You play the video over to wherever you wanted to ask a question. So let's say you have the first minute or so, and then you give them a couple concepts, you define it for them, and afterwards you want to ask them if they actually understood what you just said. So clicking on the timeline where you want the quiz question to go. I don't know how many, if there's a limit to it, I haven't encountered it, but so however you want to work it. And so you can click add a new question. It's going to say, okay, once you do it, you can't move that question around. You just say, okay. You can delete it, but you just can't move it around. So whatever question you have is, what was the button I pressed, or whatever it is you are asking. You can have multiple choice questions. You can have true or false questions, fill in the blank, or free response. Now these last two are problematic for grading. And what I mean by that is if you put, they're supposed to use this certain term and they don't know how to spell it, or they spell it a little bit differently, it'll mark as not, you'll see the answer, but it'll automatically mark as not getting it correct. So be mindful of that when you use fill in the blank. Free response, there's no way for TechSmith to tell you how many students got it right or wrong because you are going to be evaluating it. This is good for if they have any follow-up questions or what's one thing that they're confused about. You can see those free response answers in the analytics section that I showed you a little while ago from that main video homepage. Let's just say it's multiple choice. Let's say it's the stop button is the correct answer, but I also want to put, let's say, pause, and then maybe the camera button or whatever it might be. You can have multiple correct answers, but for this one, let's just put one of them. And then you can add feedback. So once they get the question right or wrong, it says, great, this was the answer, however it might work. So this is useful in regards to here. You can do a couple things too is you can send reports of how this quiz is doing to yourself. You could also just gather information about each student this way. So what's neat about this too is, and there is a way to change this, but I don't know how just yet, is when students view this, they'll see that there's a quiz question coming up. So they'll know that they have to pay attention. And if they are watching the video, saying here for this particular thing, so the video will stop and the question will come up. It won't look like this. This is the teacher's view, but a question will come up and it'll say, what was the button I pressed? And they have the options. You can set it so that if a student doesn't get it right, they have to go back and watch whatever section it was. You could have it that if they don't get it right, it doesn't matter, it just continues on. So you could have it where the student needs to answer the question correctly before they even get to the next part of the video. So what it does if you have two questions, if I added another question here, what it would do is it would back up to the previous question. So it would play this, they didn't get it right, it goes back and they try it again to see if they can do it. You have ownership over that editing, but that's kind of how it's used. Again, pretty simple to add questions. You just do it that way. Make sure you hit save quiz and then it'll say success. You can link to this particular assessment this way. So if you want to share this video this way without using the groups, you can do that with that particular link. You could also embed this video if you use a completely separate system. You have a web page or whatever it might be with that. So that's adding quizzes. It's kind of neat. You can mess around with that. Again, I would deter you from using it as a seriously graded quiz because students can do all sorts of things, right? I have it mostly just to give me feedback if students are watching it, if they understand some simple concepts, and if they have questions about something specific, they can do it that way. So that's quizzes. You create the quiz and then you share it to different classes. That'll have then the same quiz, but different analytics, different results based on those students. So that's where you can kind of do that. The last thing is a very, very new tool that they have is the conversations. So think of this as when you create a conversation on a video, you're creating a separate copy of that video that plays along with the conversation, right? So even if you share it to a group, you want to share the link to the conversation version of it as well. The conversation version of it will still have the quiz on top of it, but if you add a conversation to it, that you have to use that link that they'll give you at the end of it, and that's the one that they share. I'm not sure the reason behind that, but that's what the instructions say to do, so we'll probably need to do that. So you're taking a video, any video you want, and you add a conversation to it. It's going to give you a conversation topic. So this is not a question that you want answered. It's what the topic of the conversation is. What are the most confusing elements? Or what was the most surprising part of it? Those kinds of things that a conversation can be a part of, right? So just mind how you use this. It'll get cluttered. If you have 25, 30 students in your class, they're all watching a conversation and they're all giving feedback, it'll get jumbled. So just mind that. So the most important part of this video was, right? Whatever question or whatever prompt you have, it'll show you then the conversation piece down here. It'll tell you how many people actually commented it, how many people actually participated it, and then when you created it. Clicking on the video title here, or you can get a link this way. This is how you would access the results of this conversation. So I'm going to click on this just to show you kind of what it looks like. The video will open up. This is the conversation format. And over here then are going to be the comments that'll be populated as the students are watching it. So let's say that you asked a question about what the most confusing part was. If you notice, here's the quiz. This might show us what it actually looks like. Hold on.
For this particular thing. So.
Yep. So students will see this, that they'll either take the quiz or they can replay the last section. They click take quiz. It looks something like this. If I remember correctly, that's it. And I submit it. They got it correct, it tells them. They can either view the answers, so what the real answer was, if you have it that way, if you highlight it, or just continue.
Larger piece.
And that quiz goes away. But this is different than the conversation. Let's say I want to, at second number 10, let's say I have a question about something that came up here, or I want to say this was the most important part of it. So this was the most important part for me, and because whatever. You can, any student can, including you, you can add notations, you can add boxes. Imagine there being like a map or something like that and you want to highlight certain things. You can add arrows to say this was the most important part here. You can clear those things, and you can also then change the color of your comments and also just draw on it if you want to that way. So those will then be part of that conversation that they had. So let me give you an example of how this looks. Let's just say I want to comment on something like that and hit submit. The conversation comes up here. Now imagine this happening with 25 students. So you'll have 25 things listed. You can upvote it. Anybody can upvote it. You can reply to it, or you as the teacher or the student as the person who made the video can edit it if they want to. They can delete it, whatever. So other people can't edit other people's videos other than you can as the instructor. So you can thumbs up, you can reply, whatever it is that you're going to reply, and hit submit. And so that goes that way. I have found using this just in the last semester, I used this a little bit, but I found that students would ask a question or make a comment, and students would then know the answer to that and reply, so I didn't have to. You will go, if you click on each one, it'll go directly to that particular section. If I have another question here and I submit, notice it's time stamped differently. So you can go directly to there. This is important to either turn on or turn off depending on how many emails you want. So it'll notify you that a person has commented, and it'll give you a link in the email to where you can go to see that comment. So imagine getting 25 emails and then whatever response is. So I do this, I click it off, so you don't get that, and you can just check back periodically if you want to as well. That's the conversations. There's probably clever ways to use this in your classroom if you want to have a back and forth thing. This is just kind of, it's similar to the YouTube commenting, but it lets you know exactly who the person is commenting, their first and last name, and so on and so forth. So that's quizzing. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward on how to do that particular piece. So that kind of goes through the basic editing options you have. Quizzing, conversations, this is where you do more specific editing for it. Revisiting the accessibility, looks like then my captions are ready for edit. This is the last thing that I'll show you, and then I'll talk to you a little bit more, and if you want to play around, you can. If it's ready for edit, you simply click on this and you want to edit it. You could just publish it and just see what happens, but what you'll find is sometimes they'll be a bit off. So it's all automatic. It does it in 4 or 5 second chunks, right? So this is the first thing. If you have changes, you can make them right in here, kind of just like YouTube does. You can click on the next piece and on the next piece. So if you have certain terms that are specific to your field and certain language that you're using that's not ordinary, you can make those changes there. I suppose you could delete the whole entire thing if you want to, but that would be silly. ADA compliance, there's an ADA compliance check down here, and let me just show you what this is. This is, I think it's more best practices than it is like, if you don't do this, then you're doing it absolutely wrong and you'll get sued kind of thing. But the caption should be between 3 and 7 seconds. So each of these captions should capture between 3 and 7 seconds of stuff. So if you want to add a bunch of stuff and it goes over, it's going to say, don't do that, right? It has to be readable. The captions have to always be present. What that means is if you, for some reason, there's a part of the video that you deleted and you're talking, but there's no captions, it'll catch that. And then the captions between a certain amount of space. So how many characters you're allowed to write before it says it's too much. If you have this check mark, you're all set. It's ADA compliant, you're all done, and that's that. It does take a bit of practice, especially if you have certain terms that you use often that it doesn't know. It doesn't learn from you, like Microsoft Word, where you can add a new word to the library. So you kind of have to mind what you do there. You can save and exit if you don't feel like publishing it, or you can publish those captions and you hit publish, and then when the video plays, it's on there. So really quick, you can turn those on and off, and the student can turn those on and off. So if they don't want to have the captions, just like on a YouTube video, you hit the button and it'll say, all right, there's no captions for this particular one. You should be all set. So this is in a nutshell. I'm going to stop sharing and going back to the video here. That's the basic features. Now I know I verbally regurgitated upon you, so I know there's a lot of stuff here, but it does give you a lot of freedom and a lot of accountability on the student's end to actually interact with the videos. Let me just say a few things and I'll take your questions. So Nicole, your question, do you have to be in conversation mode in order to annotate the what part?
Just when I was watching you annotate, you know, and draw like on your screen and that kind of thing, like, is that only available in conversation mode, or can you do that, I guess, when you're first doing the video capture?
So the answer is no, you don't have those video editing capabilities. It's just in the conversations, and it'll only be the things that you draw and annotate will only be accessible inside of that conversation video. However, Camtasia does that, it's just that simple too. So imagine you recording a video using whatever, TechSmith or whatever. You download that, actually, if you get Camtasia, it links, so you can just simply say send to Camtasia. Open up Camtasia, there's a bunch of like click and drag stuff. You want to circle here during this part, you want it to last 3 seconds, you want a bubble to pop up or whatever it is. You've got a lot of features in Camtasia, and then you hit simply save and send to Knowmia, and it will send it back up there and you're done with that. So no, what this doesn't do is a robust video editing tools. They want you to use their other programs for that. But because it's the same company, they meld really well together.
Okay.
Yep, good question, but that won't, I mean, I'm sure there's other kind of hacking ways to do it, but that right now, as far as the video is concerned, that's what you have access to, is those kinds of things. There's a lot that TechSmith can do. You might want to do very much, you might not want to do any of those things. So you don't have to use the quizzes. It just kind of is a neat way to make videos a bit more interactive for students. You can make those quizzes fun or joking around with them or whatever it might be, just to see if they're paying attention. We'll talk about this too, but best practices say that you shouldn't have more than a 3 to 5 minute video at a time. So when I teach face-to-face, it's an hour and 25 minutes. I've got 30 students. I do a little lecture, but I try to make it fun and engaging. But those lectures, those presentations, in one way or another last maybe, let's say, 50 minutes or more than that. If you try to make a 50-minute video, that's obviously not going to work out well for you. So what they say is to make smaller videos, to chunk the content. If I'm talking about the entire writing process, for instance, I might not make a video talking about all of it, but I might chunk it into the different moments in that writing process. With Canvas, especially, you can create a page. You'd have a video that the students would click on, watch that right in the browser. They don't have to actually go anywhere else. And by the way, when they're in Canvas, they click on it, you can see that they've done that from this home page as well. But they watch the video, they scroll down, they've got a couple texts they got to read, or a joke, or a GIF, or a song they were listening to, and then they go to the second video, and the third video, and the fourth video. So you can still have that 50-minute thing, but it's broken down into smaller segments after that. That's just something that you want to kind of pay attention to. I've used it to do the exact same thing. When I was frustrated with this for a little while, I downloaded the video and just put it right up on YouTube. And it was easy to access that way, but I didn't know how many students were actually viewing those things as well. So that's kind of what I have for today. A really quick piece, and this is not to plug anything in particular. but looks like most of you are on a laptop or a PC that you have with a built-in camera perhaps. Because of the pandemic, there's not a whole lot of options, but if you invest in an HD camera, when you're streaming like we're doing now, it takes a bit of processing power to stream a HD image. However, when you're using TechSmith, you're just recording a video. So I would encourage you to invest in a high definition camera if possible. You can find some online. I found mine, it was on Amazon. I've never seen the brand before. It's a small piece and it's got this really cool, I would show you, but it's very impossible. But it's got this neat little ring around it too. So it's got a light in there. And so it's a plug and play thing. I just plug it right into my computer. I can take it with me. I also have, this is just from an old tripod that I have, but I have a tripod with one of these, these ports on it that I can plug the camera in. One thing that I've done, it's difficult for me to sit and talk without doing a bunch of this, right? And so I've found what photographers use. They're not too expensive, like 10 bucks, but I hung this sheet behind me. And I then put the camera a little bit back, so maybe from waist up, and then I can kind of interact more and it feels more personal, right? So rather than just this face that's in front of you. I mentioned this, but I have a microphone too. I just took it from my office before they closed everything down. The camera has a mic in it. You can get lapel mics, or you can get like these studio ones too if you need to, but it just makes a bit clearer audio for that as well. Now the last thing, it sounds like it's overdoing it, but it really is neat, is I have a friend, he's a photographer, and he talked about these light boxes that they have. So just hang with me for a second. So this is kind of weird, but these are the lights that photographers use. And what it is, it's hard to see, but there's a light bulb inside this bag, and it has like a default light here thing. So if I'm in my room and I don't have a bunch of natural light, this is an easy way to do it. And it looks a lot better than, say, right? This looks a little bit gloomy, and if I turn my other light off too, it's not the best. It just looks like I'm a sinister person trying to interview somebody or whatever. So I try to have these things on when I'm making recordings for students and things like that. These big boxes, maybe like 20, 25 bucks each. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I got one more thing to show. It's like a warehouse of stuff. Is then you can buy these for pretty cheap too. And these are just more portable light rings. And so you would attach your phone or whatever it is here, and then you have this ring light to do. I just throw it behind my laptop so I have more light in front of me if I need to. And you can dim the light or make it more warm if you want to. It's just kind of neat to use. So those two things I think help the video be a little bit better. And the last thing too, and I'm sure you've been in some of these videos where the person is interviewing or saying something and this is what you're seeing from them, right? So you just got to mind those things as well, that the students will know when you're taking a bit more effort to make these videos. It's kind of up to you to kind of, however comfortable you are. I know that you are, I think Kirtland is doing some sort of hybrid, or some of your classes are on campus and some of them are not. Is that true? Yeah, and so you can record your lecture while you're in class. Just hit the record. You have the microphone hooked up. You don't want to have any videos of you doing it, but what you're presenting to your students live, you can capture that and then send those out to the students that are learning remotely if you want to. There's ways for students to use this to capture knowledge as well. Make me a screen capture showing me that you know how to research this concept or do this formula or whatever it might be, and then have them send that video to you. They each have their own space. They can make their own videos. They can share it with you. You can then take the video and put it up on yours if you want to for other students to see. But it's pretty neat and pretty robust for you to kind of look at those things. So I'll end here. Next time I'm going to talk to you about integration with Canvas. Just click. There's a way for you to upload the video in a way that it will create a gradebook entry for you if you want to, that they watched it or they got a certain percentage on their quiz or whatever it might be. We'll talk about the TechSmith app. It's called TechSmith Fuse, F-U-Z-E, I think. There's a few other apps out there, so mind that you're doing the right one. We'll also talk about, you can upload from Zoom, and so this is a pretty easy thing too. When you record a video on Zoom, it'll say, do you want to record it locally, like on your computer, or to the cloud? And there's a setting that you need to click on. But if you, because I believe this is true for Kirtland, it's true for Mott, that Kirtland bought the Zoom program for faculty to use to have more people on it or things like that. So because you've logged in using your KCC credentials, when you hit record meeting and I want to go to the cloud, it'll also make a copy of that and put it in TechSmith for you. So it'll actually create under the groups. You saw a library, you saw the groups, and you saw the library. So in the library, under a folder, it'll say Zoom recordings. So automatically transfer it there for you. You can put the captions on it and send it out that way if you want to as well, to know if your students are actually watching your Zoom captures as well. It's really cool. I mean, I'm not making any money from this. I did get a tumbler, like one of those cool tumbler things with the TechSmith logo on it, and I did get a pencil sharpener once, but that's pretty much it. But I really enjoy the program, and I think just hearing it from another faculty member perhaps is helped to kind of encourage you to kind of do more with it. So I'm reading the question too. Wait, so what is, oh yes, yeah. So now I don't know. So I'm actually gonna stop hit record here. All right, so I don't know, but I think, so Mott was able to take its CARES money and then help reimburse for some of this stuff. So I wouldn't have bought these lights had it not be for this. This is something I can take into my office at school as well, but sometimes there might be options for those. And Dave would be the contact person to talk about that. I'm not saying that there's money for everybody, or he could buy, a set of them and then you could check them out as you see fit for that. So don't underestimate the power of your institution to provide funding for you. I know that might not be the best option, but it is an option to look at. And then yes, what I'm gonna do next class then is every semester I clear my data, so I don't have one with the results of students, but I can create one of those two for tomorrow and kind of log in and take it and kind of show you what it looks like. Or by the way, I could share it with you guys and you could take the thing and see what it looks like from your end as well. And it's really kind of neat what the analytics kind of show you. So I don't have one to show you now, but I can create one for next session. So again, day 2 would be Zoom using Fuse, integrating to Canvas, and then just some concepts of design. Just basic concepts, if that makes sense. If you want to stay and practice some stuff, I've set up this Zoom, so if you want to share your screen with me, I can kind of walk you through if you have any hiccups. I'm not one of those presenters who expect you to stay the entire time, so if you've gotten your fill and you want to sign off, I'm not heartbroken for that. As far as I'm concerned, we're done with the major session, but I did want to give some time for you if you have questions or want me to walk you through any of the process this could be that session. So if you have questions, ask them, stay if you need to. If you want to check out, that's fine. And if you do leave, well, then we'll be back here at 2 o'clock next class. It'll be the next session. It'll be the same length of time with a half hour at the end. And then Friday, we'll do some wrap up stuff and I can answer any more questions you have for that. Yes? Okay. So stay if you need to, otherwise just make your way out of the room. And again, if you have any questions in the meantime, you can use my email to get a hold of me and I'll be checking that periodically. You should have access to all those things. So there it is. It was nice kind of virtually meeting you. I know it's a strange time we're in, yes? So if you have questions, stay, otherwise I'll see you tomorrow.